Please consider supporting Black Women United YEG for the protection and advancement of black women and girls in Alberta. You can learn more about them at bwunited.ca. They are always looking for donations and volunteers. So please, again, support Black Women United YEG for the protection and advancement of black women and girls in Alberta. Again, that website is bwunited.ca.
Hey, this is Trevor from Halifax, calling in to say that I support Creative Control on Patreon because I think long-form arts journalism is a crucial part of music culture, and there's simply not enough of it out there today. Vish is a master interviewer, he lands great guests, and he has his finger on the pulse of the ever-changing music landscape, both here in Canada and abroad. For all of these reasons and many more, I think you should support Creative Control on Patreon too.
To make your flexible monthly donation to Creative Control, please visit patreon.com/Creative Control today. I'm Visha's wife, and I will love him no matter what you do. And now he has me on the record saying that.
There's time to burn. There's time to burn.
Michael Feuerstack is a multi-talented musician, songwriter, producer, and singer based in Montreal, Quebec. Once a member of the band The Wooden Stars, who get together every once in a while still to play some shows, and formerly known by the name Snail House, Feuerstack is a prolific, award-winning, and gifted artist with a sharp eye for the human condition and a lovely, romantic way with words and melodies. Feuerstack's latest album is a stirring one called Harmonize the Moon, which officially greets the world on March 19th, 2021, via Forward Music Group. Michael returned to this show for a chat about his new album and how its songs, which were written prior to any pandemic lockdown, explore notions of time and space. We discuss social media and existentialism, the experience of playing and enjoying live music and going out on tour, his approach to home recording, future plans, and much more. A part of the Entertainment One Network with the support of listeners like you who follow and subscribe to this podcast and spread the word about it and make flexible monthly donations at patreon.com/Creative Control and Massey Hall's concert film series live at masseyhall.com, where you can stream dozens of 30-minute films for free, including performances by past podcast guests like Basha Bulat, plus in-kind support from Pizza Trocadero, The Bookshelf, and Planet Bean Coffee in Guelph, and Grandad's Donuts in Hamilton. This is the 601st episode of Creative Control, featuring the lovely and talented Michael Feuerstack, with your host, me, Vish Khanna.
There's time to burn. There's time to burn. The shape of it, the silhouette, it hasn't even stepped into the light just yet. There's time to burn.
Hi, Mike. How's it going?
Hi, Vish. I'm good.
Good. It's nice to chat with you again. First of all, where in the world are you as we're speaking?
Well, at the moment, I am in my home in Montreal.
And how are things in your home in Montreal, both at this moment, but maybe on a broader scale? How are things going there these days?
Well, I think I'm pretty intimate with this space, seeing as it's my home. I've been spending a lot of time actually in the room that I'm in at the moment, which is where I've been making music and recording and writing and stuff like that. Yeah, mostly I just feel really lucky to have a home and that I like my home and that I like being here. And yeah, it could be a lot worse given the situation in the world in general.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's fair. Now I think when I think of you, Mike, late in the morning, just before lunch, that's usually when I think of you. I don't know if you knew that, but when I'm hungry and I'm peckish, I'm like, I wonder what Mike is up to. When I
I'm pretty sure you're in a minority with that.
Don't mean to creep you out. It's just it's my pre-lunch ritual every day. I'm like, oh, we don't even call it lunch. It's like it's Mike time, you know. Anyway,
I can assure you, there's absolutely nothing creepy about that.
What I was going to say is I think of you as both a road hog, so to speak, always touring as much as you can. And I also think that you are also, since certainly going solo, if you will, prone to solitary work. So I think of two things. Out in the world, social Mike, knows everybody, stay-at-home Mike, making his stuff. Is that a fair assessment of you on some level in terms of a professional assessment, vocational assessment?
Yeah, I think so, actually. I think that both sides of that equation are kind of fundamental, you know, and that neither would exist without the other.
Yeah. Yes. So I broach it in such a manner because some of us, I think, given the way we work and what we do, we're maybe more mentally prepared for lockdown times, potentially. Now, again, this doesn't quite make sense given that part of the equation, as you call it, is you going out into the world. Have you felt, given what you do and how you do it, did you feel both prepared on some level to deal with what we're all going through? And on the other hand, are you missing the external world and being able to travel and all those things? Which is one of those two sensations outweighing the other in any way? Like, it sounds like you're grateful, but how greatly do you miss being able to leave your home and travel?
Yeah, it's not something I've actually had to kind of put a fine point on formally, you know. But yeah, I mean, I definitely miss the camaraderie and the exchange of ideas and the actually physically, you know, moving through space.
Yeah.
But I think we're still within a period of time that it still feels okay. Like, you know, obviously there's a lot of existential anxiety compounding for everybody right now.
Yeah, of course.
Given the state of the world and the pandemic and everything like that. But I feel like I'm still inside of a reasonable amount of time where I can kind of like find ways to make the best of my time alone and dig into sort of study and practice of various things that interest me. Reading, cooking, writing. Those things are all still pretty inspiring and nourishing to my whatever my path is. So, but as it wears on, I think that kind of diminishes. I can kind of see the needle going down. I start to go a little crazier as the needle gets closer to zero. But yeah, all of those things are pretty fulfilling still. So, like I say, it could be worse. I'm not exactly celebrating, but I'm making the best of it.
I've kind of, in listening to your new album, I kind of feel like time and space are a particular focus in some of these songs. And I thought that was kind of, no pun intended, timely. It's topical to be ruminating about what time means, what it means to be a speck floating through time and space, and now that time has become this almost nebulous concept of, like, you know, people are like, every day my daughter's like, is today a day off? No, it is not Saturday. It is not Sunday. It's every day. She's like, is this the day off? No. So there's like a temporality, you know, disruption that has happened. Does time inform these songs in a particular way from your perspective? Like the notions of time, our idea of what time is?
It really does. And like that was a big theme, not so much saying anything specific about time, but mulling over the question of time and how it's perceived and what, you know, the ways in which we fill up our time and try to find meaning in our days and stuff like that. And the fact that the record was tied into the pandemic and the lockdown situation and all that is just complete luck. I don't know if it's like good or bad luck yet, because nobody's really heard the record. But like the songs weren't written in response to the world's situation. Like they were over the last couple of years, those songs were being written and developed, and so in fact those songs were largely in place, and they were kind of the vision for how to make that record was quite a different one. I was going to involve a bunch of different musicians and do something kind of live off the floor in a studio with a kind of a large group. It's kind of a folky, quiet album, but I still wanted to have a sort of a panoramic musical scape,
right,
to present the songs. And so the only part of the album that was affected by the pandemic is just the actual like arrangement style and approach to making the record, but in terms of the writing, not so much. So it's kind of an interesting twist.
There's often this weird prescience in art where people make a record or write a song about just some concept in their head, and then some incident occurs in our lives, our collective being, that turns that song into something else. You know, they'd be like, I wasn't writing about 9/11. I was writing about a coffee cup, but I can see you're reading. Like, I get it. You know, like there's stuff like that happens. So how do you reconcile the fact that you wrote these songs prior to the pandemic, but now that, like I say, so much of our days, our days are basically like, how are we going to fill this time? We're filling it differently than we used to. So time is always kind of on our minds. How do you reconcile the fact that you were kind of onto something, so to speak, in just contemplating time before everyone else in the world? That's not exactly true. I'm sure some of us were already. I mean, are these? Yeah, that's actually an interesting question. Are these born of conversations you've had? These songs, like, are they born of conversations you've had with people about time? Like, was this kind of in the zeitgeist, so to speak? Like, were you like, sums up with our relationship with time and space, and I'm going to write about it? And then now, of course, we're all thinking about it. But at the time that you conceived some of these songs, do you feel like this was in the air already?
I don't know. I don't know if I can. I think it's more just kind of my internal monologue.
Yeah.
Made outward, like, yeah, I mean, I think definitely it's a bit of a preoccupation, and it probably came up in conversation all the time with people, but I don't feel it's the result of a series of discussions or anything like that specifically.
But we do, you use the term existential, and I feel like when you think about how some of us use social media or what have you, it feels very like existential exercises. I'm here, I did a thing, I made a thing, it exists. And so I think you and I are both engaged with social media on that level. Here's a photo of something. This is meaningful because here's an artifact of something. So there's, to me, a subtext with all of that stuff. Like, why are we taking photos of this stuff? Like, why are we? My father-in-law said this to me a few years ago. So you guys all take photos of everything, and then why do you post them? Like, you used to take a photo, and you just kept it to yourself. Mm-hmm. So my response was, well, everyone's depressed, and I think everyone's depressed, and we take photos to assert our existence. But also, I think for those of us who feel good on some level within that depression realm, you hope other people are uplifted a little bit by what you've tossed out into the world. Does that resonate with you?
Yeah, I think kind of, but I also think like I would actually challenge what you're saying, and kind of, it's a little bit the opposite for me personally. Like, I didn't used to take that many photos, but now that I have something to do with them, I have a reason to take photos.
The social media platforms.
If I just had for example, like if I see something, either beautiful or funny or something, I have somewhere to put it. Whereas in the past, I mean, I have years and years of hard drives and hard copy images that I don't ever want to go through. Like, I don't have time or inclination to actually sort through it. I think we collect this stuff like in for some kind of future possible
Evaluation, reevaluation.
Some occasion where you,
Yeah.
like some occasion in the future where you actually have time and interest in going through all this junk that you've collected to see if it triggers any memories or makes you feel like the time that you spent all those years ago was worthwhile or whatever it is. And I kind of feel that the social media kind of roots it in, at least for images specifically, or even Twitter, with like little thoughts that kind of come into your mind that seem funny or insightful in some way. And you just, in the same way you might share them with a friend if you were on a drive or something like that, you can just put it out into the world and then move on. And I kind of prefer that to this sort of cumulative, like note-taking and documenting of my life.
Right.
Yeah.
And the instantaneous, the urgency of like, here's a thing, here it is, I move on. There's something to do with time there too. Like, my kids just sent me a video they made, and my inclination was to enjoy. Well, I enjoyed the video, but then I had this impulse to be like, I must share this, and I curbed it.
Right.
I curbed it, but like that is a weird. I'm on some sort of leash with the social media where like it tells me to do something. It's telling me to do stuff, or I think it's telling me to do stuff, and I don't have to do it. But
there's an art to recognizing like that which is either share worthy or share appropriate for your own,
yes, of course,
set of standards or whatever. But I think a lot of people are actually kind of out of touch with why they would want or not want to share something on social media, but people are just trying things all the time.
Yeah, it's true. That part's true. There's an assertion of self, I think, on this record on some level. Like, I don't want to. I know that these songs are all a part of you, of course, as an expression. But when I hear like you say, "I used to be a singer," and you're a singer. I think what is being ruminated upon here? What is Mike sort of wrestling with, so to speak? You're in here. Do you feel like you're in these songs more than usual, like more than you might be otherwise, or?
Yeah, I actually think so, but I think yes and no once again. And sorry, my answers are always kind of riding this middle line. I'm sorry about that.
All of our interviews, are like this. I say a thing, I
Yeah.
assert an opinion, you debate me. No one else does this. You say, I must disagree with you. Most people are polite and they say, well, that's true. And then they admit that it's not true, but they don't make a point of saying, I must take a moment to take exception with your tone and combination of words in that particular instance. And I say, okay, here we go. Let's mix it up.
Here we go.
Yeah, no, I'm kidding. No, I'm kidding. But I do appreciate, to be honest, I look forward to it. I like that you're engaged and want to challenge my spur of the moment thoughts and feelings. So thank you very much. I always appreciate it. But go ahead. What were you going to say in relation to?
Comes easily.
Yes.
I just think, with that song in particular, that sort of like I kind of predicted being asked about it in the future when I made it.
I see.
And I didn't, but I don't really know what to say about it other than there seems to be this theme of regeneration and rebirth and sort of like a cyclical thing. And I feel like there's sort of a tongue-in-cheek way of playing into that idea with your own sense of self. Do you know what I mean?
I do.
So
yeah.
it's like, so like, I used to be a singer might also be like I used to identify as a singer. Maybe I choose to see myself differently now, or maybe I imagine that other people see me differently now, or something like that.
I see.
But it's not so much about me personally as the subject, or it's not like I've returned to some kind of like confessional singer-songwriter situation. There's still narrators in each of these songs, who are a little bit me and a little bit not me. And I think that's true of a lot of songwriters. They obviously you put something of yourself into it, but it's not like a diary in that sense.
Right. So is it safe to say you didn't set out to write an album's worth of songs about something per se, or did you, we were talking earlier about time as a potential conceptual framework. Did you go in thinking, I really want to contemplate this idea and create, a body of work that sort of speaks to it. I mean, again, it's fascinating to me in terms some of these songs, even the titles, You Can Relax, Time to Burn, We Are, Call of the Tired, like these all feel so relevant to our current collective sort of daily existences. Like,
it's true. Yeah. No, it's a good point. And I think like I part of making, at least with my own songs, part of what I'm looking for is like a calm or a sense of relaxation. So this is like kind of a pep talk to myself to just like find some space, and I think that's something that other people can use as well. So I find a little bit of utility in that idea, and that's one reason to make something and to share something with other people. And it's also what I get out of it. So yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I know you probably will bristle at this notion.
Oh, great! Bring it on, Vish.
Yeah, well, this is what we do. We mix it up. No, it's not that profound even necessarily, but sometimes when I contemplate what I'm doing, I land quietly to myself. If I'm thinking about it, I'm like, I think I have a role to play, and that's what keeps me going. Like I feel like this invisible sort of group or collective of people who are sort of relying on me to keep doing things. So I view the role as having some kind of responsibility, even though at some points I'm exhausted and I the same way I have existential questions or whatever kinds of questions, just like, what the hell am I doing this for? Yeah. Do you view yourself as, I know you will bristle because it sounds like I'm leading you into immodesty, but do you view yourself as having a particular role to play among your colleagues, among your peer group, in not only giving yourself pep talks, but like, and maybe it goes back to what I was saying about sometimes we send these social media volleys out to keep our friends afloat. Do you see yourself as having sort of a role? Are you Coach Mike a little bit?
I definitely don't see myself that way overall. I think that, like most people, I can perform that role when called upon. If if somebody actually needs it, like like producing an album, for example, would be like an example of playing that role. But I also I could easily switch into a different role, like you're describing me as being antagonistic to all of your ideas, for example. That's the kind of the opposite role, and I can do that too. So, I mean, for me, it's all about moderation and writing these lines, and even though there's this theme of kind of relaxation and like a search for calm within the songs, there's also, I also feel a responsibility to avoid a sense of complacency or like to make it too sort of placating,
Sure. Yeah.
So the same goes for how I see my role, in society. And that's, just like anyone else, it's to be like a friend to some people and a sounding board to other people and a mentor to others and, a brother, a son, whatever,
Yeah.
So the answer is yes, but also like that's just one facet of how I see myself and why I make music. It's like.
Well, I think I bring it up because, you mentioned utility roles you can play, I guess.
Yeah, for sure.
And for those who don't know, I should just do a roll call right now. Mike, how many, I know everything's sort of dormant, it feels like at the moment, but how many kind of current bands are you in, so to speak, active beyond yourself? Are you currently playing with other people right now?
Really, it's just Bell Orchestre that's sort of active these days. I was quite busy with the Luyas for a number of years, but that seems to be kind of on hold for a little while.
Yeah.
And I work a lot with Camille Delane, singer-songwriter from here, but that's like she has other people that she works with as well, so it's not like a formal like membership type of a situation.
Yeah, no, I guess my
but yeah, no, I definitely keep my hands dirty. What's the expression? Anyway,
I think it's fingers and
I love
fingers
collaborating.
And fingers in different pies is maybe one way of saying it. But if you have dirty hands, no one wants your dirty hands in their.
I keep my hands filthy with pie
Yes.
innards.
Yes, that's exactly,
Yeah.
that's what
Yeah.
that's the expression. Thanks. I'm glad we figured
Yeah.
that out. Now, the reason I bring this up in this
Yeah.
context is because I think when people value your talent and your skill, and they ask you to be a part of their projects because of that. And then, so there's that utility role thing. But I think also B, what I've come to know, because I've known you for so long, I know you're a good hang. I know you're like
Right.
a fun guy to hang out with. I always laugh. I think other people have that too. So, so I think that when I say role or whatever, I made it maybe feel like, or sound like more of a burden, in terms of your public role in life. But I do think in our music community, you are something of a linchpin. You know, like I say, I think you know everyone, and people respect you as being good, a friendly person, a good person, and also, and by the way, people probably have all sorts of opinions of you that I don't even know about. That's just the way things are. But my sense is that people like you and they want you to be a part of their thing because they like you. It's not just because you're a hot shit guitar player or something. You know what I mean? So that's all I'm.
Yeah, I mean,
that's what I'm.
In fact, you could make a case that it's mostly the form.
No, I'm not going to make that case. I think you're obviously a very talented musician, but I just think we need people like you are important in this milieu, and so I would be sad if you weren't releasing records on your own. I would be sad to think Mike retired. You know what I mean? I think we would.
Right.
There would be a missing. We would miss that, so to speak. You know what I mean? So you have a role, whether you know. I'm going to just take it all back and say, Mike, you have a role, and
that's great to hear. I mean, I'll take it. I'll run with that role.
Yeah. Okay. Good. I just want to clarify that. Now, earlier you were talking about the time that you've had to cook, to read, to do other kinds of learning. So I have been asking this question of more than a few guests about, things they've learned about themselves because they've had no choice, really. Like we've been given this great gift of time. Some view it as a curse because some people are fighting time, filling it. They don't want time to overwhelm them. Yeah. But have you learned things about yourself that you think that have been revelatory, for one thing? And then further to that, have you learned anything that has shifted you in any meaningful way already? As we ponder life like this, I guess, or some semblance of this kind of life, have you learned things about yourself?
Yeah, probably. Let's think. Let's do an inventory. Yeah. I've learned. I think I used to have this idea that I had a lazy streak, and I don't really feel like that's true anymore. I don't think that I've changed that much, but I think I don't really perceive it that way anymore. I definitely avoid the things I don't feel like doing, but I have a lot of energy to do the things that inspire me.
Yeah.
I seem to be on a pretty even keel. I'm not getting weighed down too heavily by the situation. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think it's more just a question of confirming or disproving things that I believed about myself prior to this current phase,
Well, one of the things I think a lot of us are reckoning with is what kind of roommate we are, if you will, and what kind of roommates we have, because we're just learning a lot about the people we spend all our time with, because we don't normally spend this much time with it. How has coexisting been for you?
Yeah, no, I feel very, very lucky, and my heart goes out to people who are in bad situations in that respect, rocky relationships or difficult roommate situations, anything like that. It's I think that would be really hard.
Yeah.
For us, it's pretty smooth. I live with my partner, Katie Ward, who's an artist, choreographer, and I'm telling the world that. I know you know that, V. Yeah, we have a pretty good dynamic. We give each other lots of space, but we also enjoy our time together. But yeah, again, I just feel lucky. It makes me feel good about the choices I've made and the way I've engineered my life to be,
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel blessed.
Well,
if I may use the word.
Yes, you can. I'll maybe bleep it in case someone's offended.
Yeah.
I have a lot of atheists who subscribe to the podcast.
Yeah.
Well, it's one of the things that you've talked a lot about feeling fortunate, and
Yeah.
I feel the same, given at least one of the things I do with my life, which is make an internet show, a show that goes on the internet that I can pretty much make from anywhere. And as a musician, in a sense, you are at least 50% of your life, I would think, is making a record and getting it out into the world.
Yeah.
And thus far, it seems like we can still do that. But you talk about someone like Katie, who's an artist and choreographer. And by the way, I'm not suggesting we invite her onto the show necessarily. I'd love to. I should. Why someday Katie should be on the show? Would she like to be on the show?
I bet she would. I bet she'd love to.
Okay. Sometime we should do that. But that's the thing I've been reckoning with. Partners where one is a musician or is someone who can do their internet work, but then the other partner is someone who's used to public performance or traveling to do their work. How has Katie been doing? I don't want you to necessarily speak on her behalf, but how's that been for Katie? Has she been able to, do some sort of internet version of her work, or has it been pretty quiet?
No, she has actually. She for Sappy Fest, actually, she did something that was performed over Zoom. It was like a score that she created that was the audience participates in the performance.
Yeah.
And they did that during Sappy Fest as part of Sappy, so that was cool. And then she's got this some collaborations going on, like with friends in the Netherlands. So she and another performer from here are at one end, and the other people are at the other end, and they're using the projections and technology. It's not so much about the technology, but they're finding ways to use the technology to pursue their ideas.
Yeah.
Which,
that's good.
It's all you can really do right now.
Yeah, that's great to hear.
Otherwise
I
you
mean,
stagnate,
Yeah. Well, yeah. As a musician, seeing how music has been sort of called upon to help people in this time. I mean, like when we first went under lockdown, I noticed that the first art form that was called upon to do live streams to remain as active as possible was music. So many of our colleagues were making, I think, somewhat makeshift, live stream videos and performances. And I thought that was sort of heartening. It almost felt like old folk music times where whatever's going on, someone can get an instrument and their voice and be present. How are you feeling as a musician about, now we're well into this thing, we're a year into this particular way of life. Do you think this has been, I don't want to say good for music, but do you feel like music has been I feel like music had been devalued for so long. And then I was momentarily, anyway, heartened that people were calling upon music and recognizing it as an art form that can sort of exist no matter what is going on, if you will. Like, unlike sports shut down and movies production shut down, but people could convey music and make records in their homes, like all sorts of interest. Like you are not the only example of this. So I wondered, like, how do you feel about music sort of status in the current moment? Do you feel like it's been? I guess I led you astray or led you into.
That's all right. How do
you feel about it?
Yeah, I don't know if I have any big insights. I know that it hasn't stopped being meaningful to me, like that I still crave new things and I'm getting more out of old beloved things that, and I'm actually revisiting a lot of stuff from my youth, like on my walks and stuff like that, and getting a lot of emotional value out of it. And so I find that pretty inspiring in terms of encouraging me to keep doing my own things. If there's anybody out there who feels the way about what I do that I do about the things that I love, then there's absolutely a reason to do it. And so I find that kind of encouraging. Yeah. But I don't know if, I think you're right. I mean, I haven't done any live streaming actually, so I haven't felt that connection or that, like, I don't know. I don't feel like I've been called upon to do that yet. But when there have been a few people who've suggested it and asked for it, and that feels really nice, and it will happen at some point.
Yeah.
But yeah, I feel like for me, like making the record was a way to keep active and keep it at the forefront. But I'm not really answering your question. I know, but
I'm asking you kind of music biz question, I suppose. But it's also, I just mean that
I really don't know about the biz. I just know that for me, it's just as meaningful, and you might be right, perhaps more so, than it was before, because I have time to dig into it, and I suspect that that's true for a lot of other people too.
I think sometimes when we cheer on an artist, we are cheering on the audacity they had to even think they could do that, whatever their practice is. And then as they continue, we're also not only cheering on their work, we're cheering on their perseverance, the fact that they persist in doing things. So
I feel that in a big way.
Yeah, so I feel like what I'm getting at maybe, and maybe I've landed on it finally after all my rambling, but what I think is happening a little bit with this pandemic and in terms of music specifically is that, yes, some people selfishly want music to come back for maybe financial reasons or whatever. Like, I'm talking about infrastructure people maybe. We need to get our venues back, and I'm a booking agent and all these, and I get that part of it for sure. And I know as fans, people just want to be able to go to a show with their friends the way they used to, and I get all that. Yeah. But what I'm saying is part of what heartens me, and is actually in my role, kept me very busy. Like I can't keep up with all the records that are coming out, but I'm not. That's really heartening that people are persisting and continuing to put things out into the world, even as most of the world has stopped. And I do think that's a remarkable part of music making that I hope people are contemplating a bit more. Like,
but the flip side of that is that people are releasing and creating at a faster rate because they're not doing the post-release promotional work.
Flip side, is that a negative?
Which if you're no, that's not negative, but it's more like that's one of the reasons why there's so much stuff happening. It's like not only are people releasing records, but they're not touring behind them for 2 years afterwards. So the people who made a record last year may well be firing up another one now. And not only that, there's people, finally who have time to invest, sort of like go through old hard drives and look old tapes and like release things that they always intended to revisit or like. So yeah, I'm just saying that the influx is maybe due to a number of factors, not only from the demand of the fans and the industry.
Your friend and mine, Rick White, is going through his archives. He's got time to do it, and there's definitely an interest. Like I've been ordering every piece of vinyl he puts out, and reanimates, I guess. And I find that stuff interesting because it's a sense of comfort and familiarity for me to have an old Eric's Trip record in its new polished format, because that's part of my youth. But it's also like, yes, we persevere, we keep going, and we value things. And we have the time to I have the time to actually listen to these records now. I mean, I should. In theory, I should. Yeah. I guess.
And I mean, Rick's a great example. He's someone who's always been really inspiring in that way. He's an archivist by nature. He's like he's a librarian, and he takes all of these contributions really seriously, and he treats them with care and maintains them, and then eventually makes them available. He doesn't like just sit on them. He shares them. Yeah. It's really inspiring and touching what he does, actually.
Yeah, I agree. I want to take us down potentially a harder road.
Oh, great.
Because I think it's been softballs up until now. Touring, I remember there was a lot of dialogue about self-care and musicians' mental health in the year or two leading up to the pandemic, the lockdown, the forced lockdown. And I want your perspective on that. Earlier I described you as a road hog, and we've talked about how we have time and we're valuing our time a bit more and all that stuff. But touring is a grind. And I guess I want your take on it. I know it's a source of revenue, but at the same time, is there any part of you that is, because I've talked to musicians who say, you know what, honestly, I'm relieved. We made a record. I'm in the band Mets, and I don't think they said this, but I'm just going to cite an example. Say I'm in the band Mets, and I put out a record, and we just had a baby. If things were normal, Papa would go and make some money for the family, but be away from the family for a year and a half, 2 years, and more or less destroying themselves on stage, every night. Is there any, so as that, again, totally hypothetical example, no one has said anything to me, I'm picking that as an example. Is there any part of you that is like, phew, I don't have to hit the road, and that is something for us to contemplate? Like, these lives that musicians lead on the road don't always end well. And sometimes it's long-term. You don't realize how bad it is until you're done, or something. Like, why the fuck is my body all fucked up? Oh yeah, shit. Lugging all that gear. And,
oh yeah, I sat in a van for 12 hours a day
so,
for the last 20 years.
Exactly.
That's why,
so is there any part of you...
That's why my bowel is twisted.
It's actually true. It's true. Is there any part of you that is like, this is mildly a relief to not have to do that cycle of album, touring, writing, then album, then touring? Is there any part of you that's like relieved?
Kind of. I mean, I feel like I'm a bit of a special case. I'm like, I go on tour because, particularly when we're talking about my own music, like I go on tour because that's part of my artistic project.
Yes.
Like I don't, it's not a source of revenue for me. It's like, it's a worry. It's like, how are we gonna mount the second half of this project? We've made the record. How are we gonna bring it to people? And it's like, can we break even? Can we, like I don't think of it as a source of revenue at all. In fact, I think that now that this is happening, the relief is more financial. It's like, okay, so not only do we not have to do that, we can't. Like, it's not even on the table at the moment. So
right.
Let's take that however many $1,000 we were going to lose and find some other way to use it to see if we can fill that same void or bring it, like find a way to share it with people that it's meaningful. So one thing I've done is like I assembled a small group of musicians and did a shoot in studio. So we took some of the album songs, and it's not available yet. It'll come out after the record's out, and we'll treat that like, it won't be live, but it'll be sort of like a concert that you can attend.
Oh yeah.
And so that's like costs a little bit of money, but probably about as much as I would have lost on a major tour,
Yeah.
So,
maybe maybe the subtext of what I'm asking is, we're doing a lot of learning about what worked and what didn't work before. Efficiency-wise, economically, ecologically even.
Yeah, it's true.
So that's what I'm kind of, and I hate, people kind of it's a dodgy subject with music because people love live music. And I love live music. If you know me, and you do, and you follow me probably on all my social media crap, like I do. Usually 2 or 3 times a week, I was going to see a band or an artist.
Yeah.
And I valued that. And it's how that was my discovery, is like, who's opening up for Mike Feuerstack? Oh, it's this artist I don't know. Who are they?
Yeah.
I'm going to buy their record. And that's all gone. Like, that whole discovery part is a whole other kettle of fish. But all this to say, I guess I'm just getting at just evaluating what we used to do and what we could be doing going forward, because my sense is, and certainly governments want us to just get back to normal, drive the economy, buy gas, I would go to Toronto sometimes, often by myself, because people my age were like, I can't go see that band at Lee's Palace Beach. I'm sorry, it's too late.
Yeah. I have a twisted bowel.
I have a twisted bowel.
Years of touring. Yeah.
And I would say, okay, well, I guess, and so like a lot of just, I value those memories. I remember the show. I don't remember the gas I spent on it, but the earth remembers the gas I spent on it, if you know what I mean.
It does.
Yeah.
Yes, I do.
So that's what I'm saying. Like, just, I love music. I love live music, but we are in a zone where you can potentially, as you say, do stuff from your home city that could potentially accomplish some of the same objective. If there's an annual, I just did this over the Christmas holidays. There's an annual benefit event in Chicago that I've never attended. I've supported it financially in the past, but because of the circumstances, they had to live stream it, and I was there. I felt like I was watching.
Oh yeah, I heard about. I listened to you talking about that.
Yeah.
I know. Yeah, I mean there are ways that we can gather that feel very different now.
Yeah,
but they maybe can fill some of that same void.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
But I mean, I think any like any real music fan in any medium or larger sized city can tell you all kinds of secret places where you can find all kinds of great music within the city limits that you're in.
Yeah, sure. Sure.
And so maybe, maybe it's exciting that there could be a return to that.
Yeah.
In a way, at the other end of all this, like maybe going and seeing more local music and having those scenes be a little bit more celebrated. I think we kind of like got away from this idea. Like there seemed to be, at least in like indie rock growing up and in punk rock when I was a kid, there was always this idea like the further away you come from, the better you must be as a band.
Yes.
So
yeah.
Like, and so I was living in whatever Moncton or Ottawa at any of those times, and often the local openers would be just as exciting as the traveling headliners. Definitely lots of instances where that wasn't true, but there's a case to be made. And I think it's cool. You can go see amazing musicians in your area. Hot singles in your area, but yeah.
No, but I guess that's what I'm missing is seeing those. You're right. Like the opening band, I'm sure I'm guilty of it. I'm paying to see so-and-so. They're playing in Toronto. I can't get there till after the opening band, and that's just the way it has to be. But then when I think about most of the people I love the most, I would. There's probably a high percentage of them I saw opening for someone.
Right. Yeah.
So I did a little audit of my show last year, and I came to the conclusion that I had a lot of repeat guests because those were the ones who they had new stuff out, but they're just the people I was the most familiar with, and also there were just very few instances where it was someone I hadn't seen live. Like even the one example I thought of was Nisa, who I had never interviewed before, but I loved seeing her live twice in 2018 and 19, I think it was. And then the record happened to be great, but I would have given the record maybe less of a chance or would have been less excited to check it out if I hadn't seen her opening for Fucked Up or playing at Sappy Fest or whatever it was. So I am not a proponent of any like live music is done and that's fine. It's the opposite on some level, but I do also think we are in a weird zone where we have nothing but time to think about how to do things in a way that doesn't kill, literally in some cases, like really destroy some of our greatest minds. I mean, I remember when 2009, I interviewed David Berman, and he said, I don't like touring because it means I can't write. And it takes away my ability to write because they expect me to go on the road. I mean, he didn't do it, as you know, very much, but he did make a point of saying, like, the reason I never toured is because I forget who he quoted. It might have been, it was another artist he was quoting, who's saying, like, if you're on the road all the time, you're not going to write. And I'm a songwriter.
It's true.
Anyway, I, again, love live music, appreciate bands that give it their all. But this moment has made me think, I bet some of my favorite musicians are in a healthier state. I mean, the financial pressures are real, of course, but
I think there's something really cool about this opportunity to reevaluate. Like, it's exactly what you're saying, but like there were lots of things wrong with the way live music was happening right before this anyway. Like nobody wants to go listen to 3 bands in a row, at sort of like unacceptable volumes,
starting at 10 p.m.
Some dingy room, standing up for 4 hours.
Yeah.
It's like, most people don't actually want to do that.
Well, but that's
and when I go see a band, it's like
Yeah.
in spite of all the reasons why it's not what I would want to be doing with my time.
well,
otherwise.
the people that want you to do that at 9 or 10 p.m. on a weeknight are the bars.
Yeah.
And so that's where I'm like, I always had a problem with that. Like, why can't we do the show at like 6 p.m.? Like, everyone can enjoy the same musical
know.
experience and then go home at a reasonable hour and get up at a reasonable hour. And I wasn't just saying this as a dad. I always I tried to
I've
do
felt this way since I was a teenager. It's
Yeah.
like, why not have a show at 6 until 9, and then they can have a dance party and make money at the bar. And they also now they make, when the bar would have been empty between 6 and 9, they can make that money too. You know, it's like,
Yeah, but anytime I ever tried to do that sort of matinee thing, people just didn't come. Particularly if
I
they
know.
were in dry spots, like dry venues. And I was
Yeah.
like, wow, it's just so associated with this behavior that people can't separate it. Like
I know.
oh, you're just, you're straight edge, stick in the mud. I'm like, no, like the point is the music. Like music, I just feel like was this weird sideshow at the same time it was the main event. And
Yeah,
so
that's true.
I find this focus on music, like you can crack open a beer if you like while you're watching this live stream from your house.
Yeah.
But it's probably not going to be the same as partying with your friends. Like, I get the social part, but I also am there to see the band and the show. So I'm wrestling with that a little bit. Again, I sound like a jerk who doesn't want to.
No, I hear you though. I'm in the same, like, for me, that's like, I miss the thing that I actually miss is the magic of an environment being filled with sound. It's like a very physical, like, locational thing.
The volume.
It's like the environment is altered by what people are putting out into the air, and that's like pure magic to me. And that's the thing I miss. And so a live stream doesn't really give you that. You can still do lots of great artistic things and create a mood and communicate lots of ideas on a live stream, but it's a different art form. And I haven't adapted to it that well yet as a viewer or as a creator.
Yeah, I think the flip side of what I'm saying about music as an art form really being valued more, I think filmmaking will start to be valued more when people start being like, I can't handle these rickety phone videos. I think that happened fairly quickly. Like my family and I paid for a supposed Nisa live stream. It was a pre-recorded thing shot at Lee's Palace, and it was shot beautifully. Mets did a similar thing. Those are the only two artists I'm going to reference on this show, by the way. It's just a contractual obligation to only mention Mets and Nisa, but it just happens to be that's the case. I watched both. I paid and I paid and watched both these things with my family, and they were made so well and so hyper-produced when that was possible with the restrictions. Being what they were, it was beautiful. Like it was like, oh, this is a film innovation now. It's not simply presenting music. Like, I don't know if you saw the Mets one was jarring. Like, it was very disorienting. They did all these manic drone camera shots and cameras clearly taped onto guitar stock heads, and it was very interesting. And so what I'm saying is, the presentation of everything is going to change, and I think certain art forms are going to elevate, and potentially we're going to learn things about what we don't want to do, hopefully, when we have some semblance of normalcy. Anyway, this is all part of the album Harmonize the Moon.
I hope you're right.
It's all, anyone listening, you can hear more about this. Yeah, well, I appreciate you saying you hope I'm right, by the way. That's all I can say. So you mentioned that you have some plans to sort of get the word out about the record, involving some of the things maybe I just described, film, video. Is that's the case?
Yeah, we did something like that. We did some of the album, a selection of the album songs, and it was very fun for me creatively because I actually, for the first time in almost a year, I was in a room with other musicians. We were distance. We were in made sure the space was big enough, and we were, observing all the guidelines and everything, but it was very cool to be in a room with other people. And it was really fun to make this music that was made completely in isolation, where I played all the instruments, did all the overdubs, did all the recording and the mixing and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And it was this completely I guess isolated is the only word I can think of, experience making the record. And then all of a sudden to rearrange those songs with other musicians and get other people's input and have the instruments happening like concurrently in a room was actually really huge for me. And I'm hoping that excitement kind of translates and brings it to life.
I'm sure it will. I want to ask you a question that could be a dumb one, and
Please.
I know you're not used to.
There are no stupid questions.
Well, I was thinking of the song. I believe it's "Time to Burn" that has more of a full arrangement, if you will, more instruments among those songs that does. And so you're playing the drums as well.
Yeah.
Good job, first of all, if I might say.
Thank you.
I know it's not necessarily your first instrument. Is that correct?
And yes, it's not even my instrument at all.
You've done.
I actually borrowed the snare drum from Steph Schneider.
Oh, nice.
And I had a couple of mallets, and it was actually just with my hands. Like I had the kick drum and the snare drum, and I played with 2 mallets.
Oh, okay, there you go.
And then I think there's a cymbal on that tune too, which was actually done as an overdub because I only have 2 hands.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, and it was just it was a pretty scrappy, punk ass way to make basically to create the feeling of having drums on the song.
Well, no, I didn't. It's
the
curtain has been pulled back. I did not pick up on that scrappiness. But
cool.
My dumb question.
That's good to hear.
Yeah, my dumb question though, as I contemplate the drum kit, I finally have the ability to have set up in my own home, which hasn't been the case for like 20 years. It's like every once in a while, I'm like, it would be fun to try to make something, write a song, record something. And then I hear of people like you doing everything by themselves, Chad Van Galen, these sorts of folks who just play everything. Where do you begin on a song like Time to Burn? Do you have the guitar all figured out, or do you start with that drum pattern you're talking about? What makes the most sense?
I would say pretty much for everything on this record, like any extra instrument aside from the guitar and the voice was an arrangement afterthought, So with Time to Burn, I can remember fairly clearly, like just sort of, it's, mostly based around this one chord really.
Yeah, right.
I mean, there are chord changes in the song, but the groove kind of happens around this one strummed, kind of eerie, open sounding, vague chord. Yeah. That I just found kind of hypnotic and enjoyed. And then that Time to Burn refrain started coming out, and I don't know. It had kind of an eerie personality of its own. It does
have that. So
I hadn't come across before.
So what you're saying is, in that particular case, and I know you've done this sort of stuff in the past where you've built a song from scratch yourself, but in that particular case, it's your singing, or I don't know what you did, in what order, but you basically laid the guitar down first, which is interesting because I always assumed the rhythmic instrument would be the bed, so that you're playing to that timing. But then sometimes as a drummer, I know that you will play the way you think the song is meant to be played, but then you'll notice that your colleagues are playing it at a slightly different tempo, and you have to kind of react to them. It could be you're making the mistake, it could be they're making the mistake somehow, but the odds are it's you as the drummer, that they're playing to you. And so that's my thing is my thing is like, does it make, but it's in my mind, because I've only played in bands, I've never built a recording completely from scratch. In my mind, how you figure that out is a bit mystifying. Like, what makes the most sense, to lay the drums down or to lay the other instrumentation down? Now I'm just asking for music lessons. I'm sorry.
No. But I mean, for me, like that one is like, these songs are clear where the core of them, the bed track, if you will, is the guitar and often the voice. Yeah. And so, and everything else was added after the fact. And I mean, it's definitely not the norm when you're like stacking a record. You want to do like fundamental rhythm stuff.
That's right.
And then build up from that, generally speaking. But I mean, rules were made to be broken, and it's fun to break the rules. But for me, I mean, it wouldn't have been possible to do it the other way around for this group of songs. It just wouldn't have worked. I would have run out of steam on the drums. I would have wondered why I was doing what I was doing, without having the song to play to.
Right, exactly. Like Daniel Romano has this project, Ancient Shapes,
Yeah.
and every time I've talked to him about it, I'm mystified. He says usually it's because he's been producing someone else's record or something, and the drum's already mic'd up. So he just starts playing, he says, hits record, starts playing drums, and then figures out everything else on top of it.
Yeah.
Later, like he has no intention, which is, I think Prince used to do stuff like that. Actually,
Yeah.
people used to. It's very fascinating to me that's, and so that's why I'm like getting I'm suffering from delusions that that's something I could do potentially, and I want to figure it out. Anyway, sorry, we can talk about
I'm
this.
sure
some
with
other
Dan, he's like singing the song while he's playing the drums in his head. You know, he's like imagining it rolling.
No, he
out.
claims.
And
No, he told me he wasn't. He told me
wow.
the lyrics come after. It's all.
That's great.
Doesn't write them down. Like
Yeah.
he could be exaggerating, but
it's interesting.
but
I mean,
I just found that fascinating, and I wondered, as yourself, a solitary recordist, sometimes you know that. What do you do? How do you begin? Where do you start? You know, and
well,
like
it's always different. I mean, this is basically a folk record, so for me, like, you know, it's kind of like when you listen to like the songs of Leonard Cohen or something like that. You can't imagine that they went in and put down bass and drums first, and then he came in and added what he does on top of it. Like if there's a sort of a foundation, it's the guitar and the voice. So
right, exactly. Yeah, I guess it's
but it's different kinds of music play out differently. So
yeah, it might be depending on the primacy you place on the instruments. Even like I think my instinct as a drummer is like the drums are the most important, so they should come first. Whereas,
well, if I was able to sit down in a drum kit and make something that I thought sounded like music or that was exciting to me at all, then there would be no reason not to start that way. Really.
Yeah. Right. Right. Exactly.
But it's you know, I'm not a drummer and I don't claim to be, so it's like
you're starting with the tools you feel the most comfortable using, and then adding the less comfortable ones after for
I guess that's
flavor.
another way of looking at it.
Yeah.
But I also think that like I don't really buy into like talent or skill when it comes to songwriting. You know, like I think that it's really great to master your instrument or to like go deep into learning about things, but also like being creative can happen at any stage in dabbling with an instrument. So there's no reason why I couldn't write a song with just a floor tom and a synthesizer, and you know, but I haven't yet.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate these insights, and I appreciate you taking time to teach me how to record things from afar. At least give me some advice. It does mean a lot. So, Mike, I want to direct people to wherever you want me to direct them to. If people want to learn more about you and Harmonize the Moon, this beautiful new album, where in the world would you like to send them, per se?
I guess there are a few places. I mean, I have a website. That's probably a good place to start, and it's just my name .com.
It's not it's not myname.com, just so we're clear. It's not myname.com.
Yes. No, it is. It's actually my name spelled out.
Okay.
And and obviously there's all the different social media outlet places, and Forward Music Group is the label that I collaborate with, and so any of those sites will tell you what you want to know, or at least lead you to where you can find out what you want to know.
I think you're funny everywhere, but you're very funny on Twitter. So I hope people follow you on Twitter.
That means a lot. I hope so. I mean, I like to have fun. It's like my brain works quickly, so it's just nice to have a little outlet for stupid shit that comes to mind.
Yeah, it's like little observational comedy type tweets, I think, in some ways, and I think they're very funny and sometimes profoundly insightful. So I hope people follow you on Twitter. Okay, well, I want to go out on a song, if possible, from Harmonize the Moon, and I wonder if you can choose one and also maybe tell us why you chose it.
Sure. Let's see. Let's do Bathed in Light. It's the second last song, and I think it's like near the end of the record, so it might end up getting less attention than some others.
Yeah, deeper cut.
That's one reason.
Yeah.
Deep. That's the term. Thanks, record store nerd. Yeah. But also it's like it kind of came from a bit of a different place. Like it kind of surprised me when it happened to kind of come into existence. So,
Okay.
and I like that. So yeah, why not pick that one?
There's no reason not to, I would say. All right, this is Bathed in Light from Harmonize the Moon. Mike, thank you so much for being back on the show and for your time as always. And I always,
thank you, Vish.
Yeah, I wish you the best.
I love listening to the show.
Appreciate it. Are you gonna listen to this one?
Yeah, I don't know. We'll see. I might start and then bail. We'll see how I feel.
Well, I thank you again for being on the show and best of luck with everything going forward.
Well, thank you, Vish.
You'll appreciate it in 20 years. Yeah, maybe.
Bathed in light, bathed in light, bathed in light, bathed in light. Devoid of metaphor, strangely loud, out in the open, it's obvious now. Bathed in light, bathed in light. Do me a favor, make it obscure. Make no mistake that I'll ever be sure. Bathed in light, bathed in light. A mosquito that lands on the tip of your nose. A midnight intruder that the floodlights expose. Bathed in light, bathed in light, bathed in light, bathed in light. Crackles and sparks that jump from the fire, errant tones that stray from the choir. Bathed in light, bathed in light. Running in circles, spinning in air. A moment in time, catching the glare. Bathed in light, bathed in light. Paint me a picture in mysterious tones, awash in pigment from sources unknown. So much to look at, so little to see. Bathed in light, bathed in light, bathed in light, bathed in light.
Rolled all over us. This time was gone complete. Look at that. Some David said fuck. From Lake Michigan.
Oh yeah, I see it now.
Yeah, that's the lake. We're gonna see more.
That was very lovely to have Mike Feuerstack back on the show. It's been a long time since Mike was on the show, and it was nice to catch up. For this, the 601st episode of Creative Control. I said that with a questioning lilt in my voice, but I think I've lost track of them. I think was that this one? The 601st episode of Creative Control, which is part of the Entertainment One podcast network and is available wherever you get your podcasts. If you can't find an episode that you've been looking for, or if you want to learn more about me and sign up for my monthly newsletter, please visit my website, vishkhanna.com. You can like the Creative Control page on Facebook, if you still use Facebook. You can also follow the show on Twitter at Vish Creative, or you can follow me directly on Twitter and on Instagram. Oh, things are happening on Instagram these days. I can't stop using Instagram. It's like I'm addicted to social media. But anyway, if you want to follow me on Instagram and Twitter, you can at @VishKhanna, just my name, @VishKhanna. Also, please visit patreon.com/creative control to make a flexible monthly donation to sustain this very podcast. $6 or more grants you access to exclusive content. Audio content is often stuff from my archives. Occasionally, I'm trying to contemplate video things that maybe I can put up there and not anywhere else, but I haven't got to that too much yet. But there is I go into the archives. Mike was frequently a guest on my old college radio show, the Mish Vish Interracial Morning Show. And I recently just posted a 2011 interview I did for that show with Mark Maron. So if you like Mark Maron, it's like a 45-minute chat from 2011. You can see where his head was at 10 years ago, if you want. I don't know. That's an idea. Anyway. Also, sorry, I was going to say one more thing. If you are interested in receiving a Creative Control t-shirt, message me on Patreon, and I will get you one while supplies last. Again, all that info, patreon.com/creative control. Thank you for considering supporting the show. Thanks again to live at masseyhall.com, where you can watch beautifully captured concerts by great Canadian artists, and also to Pizza Trocadero, The Bookshelf, and Planet Bean Coffee in Guelph, and Granddad's Donuts in Hamilton for their in-kind support for this show. Thanks as always to my old friend Jim Guthrie. He lets me use some music of his on the show, and you can learn more about Jim at jimguthrie.org. And finally, thank you. Thank you for listening to this episode with me and Mike there. I hope you enjoyed it. And thanks for subscribing to the podcast and telling your friends about the show to check it out and listen to it. Just spreading the word about it, that really helps a lot. It means a lot. Thank you for everything that you do to support this show, and I will talk to you very, very soon. Bye for now.